Hello, everybody, and welcome to the Tuesday edition of Video Clips, which is brought to you by Wellness Forum Health and the Wellness Forum Institute for Health Studies. We're having a frigid day here. It's like 5 degrees, so I'm all bundled up in layered clothing, everything covered up because it's cold even when you're in a place that's not cold, if you know what I mean. So anyway, getting on with today's news, I'll start with an announcement. Next Wednesday starts the Diet Lifestyle Intervention course for winter semester. And this is the one that is designed for health professionals, but consumers can take it. It includes modules like diabetes, heart disease, autoimmune, gastrointestinal, women's health, men's health, children's health, mental health, cancer, musculoskeletal conditions. There are 15 modules. It's pretty inexpensive, actually. And you can audit it as a consumer or you can take it as a healthcare professional. I promise it'll change your practice. So don't miss it. We only offer it 3 times a year, starts next Wednesday. And if you're interested, just send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. And if we need to have a phone call to talk about if it's right for you, happy to facilitate that. So I have some news items to share. And the first one has to do with green tea and women's health. Green tea is the second most common beverage consumed in the world today after water. Many people don't know that in addition to brewing tea, it's been used as a food in China, particularly by wealthy people for hundreds of years. And some of you know we have our own tea farm in China where we grow food grade green tea and then bring it here to the United States. And it's part of our suggested smoothie recipe. And by the way, one of the reasons why we suggest putting it in the smoothie is that Asian populations that benefit from drinking green tea drink 6 cups average a day each, and we're not really culturally adapted to that. So the tea isn't very helpful unless you use it regularly, and the smoothie is one way to get it in your body every day. That's how I get it in my body every day. There are hundreds of thousands of published studies regarding the health benefits of green tea, and I'm going to share the results of a couple of them in today's video. A 2013 double-blind placebo-controlled trial randomized 39 women aged 38 to 50 who had uterine fibroids to receive green tea extract or placebo. At the end of 4 months, women in the placebo group, their fibroids had grown an average of 24.3%, while the women taking the green tea extract had a 32.6% reduction in fibroid size. Women taking green tea also had a 32.4% reduction in symptom severity, a very significant reduction in blood loss, which then led to an improvement in their anemic condition. Now, some commentary about this. Better to consume the entire green tea leaf, holds better than constituent parts when it comes to any kind of food product, and combine the use of green tea with dietary change. And there are some supplements that you have to be cautious about because they can have some side effects, but there are some supplements that are specifically helpful for fibroids. And we've had a lot of success shrinking fibroids to the place where most of the women that we've worked with have not required surgical removal of fibroids or a hysterectomy in order to address them. One thing to keep in mind is fibroids are generally estrogen fed, so addressing all causes of high estrogen is crucial for reducing or eliminating fibroids. UTIs, urinary tract infections, are common, and some women tend to have repeated UTIs. And one of the consequences of repeated treatment with antibiotics is the development of antibiotic resistance, which leads to a cycle of increased incidence or frequency of infections and decreased efficacy of conventional treatment. So our advice has always been that you need to break that cycle with strategies including better hydration, better diet, and plant antimicrobials. Well, back to the green tea issue, a 2019 trial included women with uncomplicated cystitis who were randomized to take an antibiotic with or without green tea extract. At the end of just 3 days, women in the green tea group had significant decreases in symptoms as compared to those in the control group. Only 2% of the women in the green tea group continued to experience symptoms, while 63% of the women in the placebo group continue to report symptoms. That's a pretty significant difference, but symptoms are self-reported and there's some wiggle room there. But there were significant and objective improvements in urinalysis, where in areas of color, bacteria, and white blood cells, which you can objectively evaluate, and the green tea group was definitely better off. So Once again, the best option is not to take a reductionist approach to this, but to consume green tea and adopt an optimal diet, drink enough water, restore your microbiome, use plant antimicrobials to combat infections and break that cycle of continued infections and antibiotic treatment and that sort of thing. We've done that successfully with a lot of people over the years as well. Something to mention about if you live in the greater Columbus area, before we move on to the next news item, we're having a yoga retreat, Time for Me retreat. It's a Friday night, Saturday, 9:30 to 3:30 at our office in Central Ohio this coming weekend. Very inexpensive. It includes one class in our hot room, and then we're going to heat one of our larger rooms up a little bit, do some different types of yoga, and you're going to get healthy things to eat and lunch on Saturday. Joy Lawrence is the teacher. If you attended our conference and heard her excellent talk on Ayurvedic health and medicine, she does, I tell people there's excellent and then there's joy. Everything she does off the charts, hits it out of the ballpark. I'm taking this retreat this weekend. Can't wait. So if you're interested, send me an email at pampopper@msn.com and I will send you information about it. All right, next topic has to do with thyroid ultrasounds. I've been talking a lot about overdiagnosis and overtreatment, I mean, for decades, right? But specifically lately about thyroid disease. According to a new study, ultrasound to identify thyroid nodules in cancer is being misused. Not shocking, in my opinion. About 75% of ultrasounds don't identify any nodules that are recommended for biopsy, and over a third, there aren't any nodules at all. Yet the use of thyroid ultrasound has increased fivefold since 2002, and it's continuing to increase. So what this does is it results in overdiagnosis and overtreatment of benign thyroid nodules and small indolent cancers that people are more likely to die with rather than from. And something I'll add to this is it also increases the anxiety that people experience as a result of false diagnoses or worried about something that they wouldn't have known about otherwise. And by the way, if you are a member of Wellness Forum who bought a membership that includes our Healthy Book Club, we're going to talk about this book on the 27th, last Saturday of the month, The Myth of Normal by Gabor Mate. And it's about your psychological state. It's about a lot of things, but principally your psychological state and how it impacts your health. So I think that to discount the idea that the stress of being constantly, having to think about something, it's still there. Is it something I should worry about? We shouldn't really discount that at all. So anyway, back to the study about ultrasounds. It included 1,739 adults who underwent thyroid ultrasounds. About 40% were sent for the ultrasound because there was a palpable nodule, 28% due to the finding of an incidentaloma. That's when you're looking for something else, like you're having an image for other reasons and you find something that you weren't counting on finding, incidentaloma. 13% for compressive symptoms and 6% for metabolic symptoms. For the most common indication, a suspected palpable nodule, half of the ultrasounds found no nodule at all, and only 20% found a nodule that warranted a biopsy. So apparently the palpable nodules often aren't nodules at all. So it just tells you how anxious we are to refer people for more and more testing. According to the lead investigator, ultrasounds are low cost and low risk. Those factors result in health professionals ordering more tests, and they are low risk. Like, you're not going to get hurt by the ultrasound, but you could definitely get hurt. And there's a huge amount, this 500-page book with lots of references, that you can definitely get hurt by a diagnosis or a non-diagnosis that just makes you worried about stuff, right? The researchers said the problem is, this is quote, the problem with it is that we find things and then we have to figure out what to do with them. That leads to incidentalomas, the surveillance, worry, and anxiety and costs. It's tricky. We don't want to discourage people from ever ordering ultrasounds, but there need to be some guidelines around when it's appropriate to order. And the problem is that the guidelines are better to be safe than sorry. You can never get sued if you order all the possible tests that you can. So from a health professional's standpoint, better to order than not order. And people don't know to be more discerning. That's our business, is helping people know this stuff. While the finding of thyroid nodules and subsequent biopsies has literally exploded over the last 20-some years, the death rate from thyroid cancer hasn't changed at all during the same period of time, which tells you you're diagnosing a whole bunch of stuff that just doesn't mean anything, turning healthy people into worried people, and worried people are not healthy people, right? So, and by the way, this is what is consistent with most of what I call the hunting for cancer public health programs. The notable exception, of course, is pap tests for early diagnosis of cervical cancer. So, a well-referenced and more detailed article on the topic of thyroid nodules is posted in our members library if you want more information and you're a member. Tonight, by the way, is the first of the year How to Form Your Own Local Tribe session. And I think this is a time of life or of humanity when sometimes it's a good idea to have close friends around. I know I started a group 4 years ago that meets every week, and they're the best friends I have. And if something like that sounds attractive to you, it's free. Just send me an email at pampopper@msn.com and we will be happy to send the link. I'm going to finish up with an email from a reader or somebody who listens to me. And I think that these types of exchanges that I have are sometimes interesting to other people. So this person writes to me and says, I'm still deciding which type of membership to go with, but I have a question about the food your company sells. I noticed your ingredients include salt and sugar. Can you tell me how much? I'm plant-based SOS. SOS means salt, oil, sugar-free. And I don't have any issues, but I've been trained that salt, sugar, and oil are not good for you. Can you go into more details on this? And I wrote back, thanks for writing. We don't disclose our recipes, but only the ingredients in our foods in descending order of concentration, which is required by law. Our products are not SOS compliant and will never be because it's not necessary for health for most people. Now, we do not prepare foods with oil, except for like wedding cakes and things of that nature, but our products that we ship all over the country, those are not prepared with oil because you don't need it. It doesn't affect the taste or do anything except add fat. But there isn't any reason to restrict salt or sugar, provided that refined and highly processed foods are reserved for holidays and birthdays and things of that nature. Salt restriction beyond that for 95% of the population is not required, even for blood pressure control. And in some cases, it can cause harm. So what happens when you adopt a plant-based diet is your potassium intake goes up and your sodium intake goes down, and it all evens out without any further restriction for 95% of people. Our experience with people who salt restrict in particular show that many have developed problems such as return of allergic symptoms, restless leg. A couple have been hospitalized. Their sodium levels dropped so low. So as it turns out, we have taste buds for salt for a reason. We're supposed to consume some of it. Most people consume too much and not enough potassium. But if you adopt the plant-based diet and you're consuming a lot more potassium and no salt, this can cause a different kind of problem. All this to say that we respect everybody's personal decisions, but our members aren't part of that SOS thing because they know better. So the woman writes back, thanks for your response, but what about plants? Don't they have enough salt in them? And of course, fruit has sugar. Plants don't contain enough salt. Some must be consumed by salting your food. And I'll say this, about 5% of people are salt sensitive, like their blood pressure spikes when they eat salt or they retain a lot of water. And I'm not talking about the standard American diet type of salt. I'm talking about you're eating a baked potato and you put some salt on it or some broccoli and rice and you salt it to taste at the table. That type of salt is not a problem for the vast majority of people. But we have this idea that because you've got 5% of the population that can't have any added salt, that everybody else should do that too. And it's sort of like the idea that because some people are severely allergic to peanuts, everybody has to stop eating peanuts or anything that contains them. That would be kind of an over-the-top, not necessary restriction for most people. So I want to add one more thing about this because I think it's really important, and it goes to the philosophy that we've used to help people regain their health at Wellness Forum, and that is I've been in the healthcare business for about 28 years. And I've watched as the list of rules for achieving and maintaining health has gotten longer and longer, making it harder and harder for most people to do. It's counterproductive. It prevents people from achieving sustained change, and their family and friends justifiably view them as having joined some weird cult or club in which a Christmas cookie is toxic and salt on your broccoli is going to kill you. In response to this, people either leave the cult after a while or they dig in their heels and just insist that people who don't subscribe to this philosophy are slothful human beings who don't care about their health. And this isn't good or helpful. It's not going to help us fix our public health disaster with this type of approach. So I think what we have to do is look at what do you really have to do to regain your health and limit it to that when there are special circumstances for particular people who are allergic to a food or who have celiac disease and can't have gluten. I mean, those situations are there, but it's when you start extending some of these restrictions to the general population that we're not reaching the general population. And that's unfortunate indeed, because we live in a country of sick people. And we need to get most of them on the path to better health before we bankrupt our country and before we start seeing more and more people dying prematurely, which I hate to see that, right? So let's focus on what's really required in order to regain health. And if somebody wants to subscribe to this SOS philosophy, I mean, I'm not going to do an intervention to keep them from doing it, but it just isn't necessary for most people. One last thing for health professionals, my clinical skills class starts on February 3rd. It's about 24 hours of instruction on how to deal with today's people who have a lot of stuff wrong with them, need a lot of help in sorting themselves out. So if that's interesting to you, or if you're a health professional who's interested in at some point in time joining our network, because we have started our independent healthcare companies. So if you want more information on that or anything I've talked about today, please send me an email at pampopper@msn.com. I do set up one-on-one appointments with people. I reserve time every week to talk to health professionals, because I think training health professionals to deal with people differently is a really, really important thing to do. And I will tell you this, I have such incredible conversations with people who really, really want to help people in measurable ways and really, really, really want to get out of the system. So if you're one of those folks, send me an email. Let's set up a time and talk about it. All right. Well, I think that's enough for today. As usual, I'll pass this on to anybody who you think would enjoy watching it. And I'll be back to you on Thursday with more news. Thanks for watching.